Before we start, tell me which country you're watching from. I love seeing where my viewers are tuning in from. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more crazy HOA and Karen stories that will leave you speechless. Now, let's get into today's story. HOA Karen's spoiled son ordered me to leave my own pool, not knowing I'm the sheriff. It was one of those rare Saturdays where everything felt peaceful. The sun was out, the air smelled faintly of fresh-cut grass, and my wife was inside baking cookies, while I decided to cool off in our backyard pool. The house sat just on the edge of the community, a quiet, private place that technically wasn't part of the HOA. But that didn't stop them from acting like they owned it. For months, the HOA president, a woman everyone called Karen, had been pushing for my property to join their community. I'd politely refused, every time, explaining that my home was built before the HOA was established, which meant I was completely independent. That fact bothered her to no end. She loved rules, control, and being seen as the queen of the neighborhood. So when her teenage son, Trevor, came home for summer break, I wasn't surprised he acted just like her, entitled, loud, and used to getting whatever he wanted. That day, I had no idea they were about to turn my quiet weekend into a full-blown neighborhood spectacle. I was floating in the pool, half asleep, when I heard shouting from the other side of the fence. It was Trevor, wearing designer sunglasses and holding a smoothie. He was standing there with two of his friends, pointing toward my pool like it was a public attraction. A few moments later, I heard the sound of the gate creaking open. My dog started barking, but before I could react, Trevor and his buddies were walking across my patio, shoes still on, laughing like they owned the place. He yelled out for me to get out of his pool. At first, I thought it was a joke, maybe a stupid prank, but his tone wasn't playful. He really believed it was his. He told his friends that the HOA had taken control of my property last month and that this pool was now shared under community recreation. I nearly laughed out loud, but then I noticed his friends jumping in, splashing water everywhere. They didn't care that they were trespassing. My wife came outside stunned. She demanded to know what was going on, but Trevor just smirked, saying his mom approved it. I could feel my patience slipping, but I stayed calm. What they didn't know, what made this all so much worse for them, was who I was. I wasn't just a homeowner. I was the county sheriff. I'd lived in that house for years quietly, keeping work and home separate. Most neighbors just thought I was some middle-aged guy with a pickup truck and a nice yard. I never flaunted my badge or title. But this was crossing a line. I told my wife to go inside and call my deputy, then turned my attention back to the chaos unfolding in my pool. The boys were diving, tossing around my floaties, even helping themselves to drinks from the patio fridge. Trevor was on his phone, recording a video like he was hosting a party. Minutes later, Karen herself stormed into the yard, her oversized sunglasses glinting in the sun. She was red-faced, carrying a clipboard, and looked furious, but not at her son, at me. She began waving paperwork, shouting about HOA enforcement rights and community property access. I knew right away it was nonsense. None of it applied to me. I wasn't under their jurisdiction, never had been. She was bluffing. Again. She accused me of trespassing on shared facilities and threatened to call the police. That's when I decided it was time to end the show. I walked inside, grabbed my badge and radio, and came back out quietly. The look on her face when she saw that sheriff's star gleaming in the sunlight, priceless. The laughter from her son and his friends faded instantly. Karen froze, her mouth half open, realizing too late who she'd been trying to intimidate. I didn't have to raise my voice. I just calmly informed them that they were trespassing on private property, that their so-called inspection rights didn't apply here, and that their actions were being recorded. My deputy arrived moments later. The kids scrambled out of the pool, slipping on the deck as they grabbed their shoes. Karen tried to stammer some excuse about a miscommunication, but I could see the panic in her eyes. The deputy took statements, and I issued trespassing citations on the spot. Karen turned pale when I explained that her son's actions, breaking through a locked gate, unauthorized entry, and property damage, were all criminal offenses. But what really made her crumble was when I told her this wasn't just about the pool anymore. I was forwarding everything to the district attorney's office. Over the next week, word spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. The HOA board held an emergency meeting trying to contain the scandal. Several members were furious, saying Karen's behavior had embarrassed them and put the HOA's reputation at risk. When I showed up at the next county council session in uniform, I made sure the board understood that no one, not even a self-appointed HOA president, was above the law. I also reminded them that any future enforcement attempts on properties outside their boundaries would result in immediate legal action. A month later, Karen quietly stepped down from her position. Her son? He was banned from the community clubhouse for a year and spent that summer doing community service, by court order. The funny thing is, after all that drama, the neighborhood actually became quieter. People started minding their own business again. A few even came by to apologize for not speaking up sooner. And as for me, well, I still enjoy my pool. But now there's a new sign on the gate. Big, bold letters, impossible to miss. Private property, sheriff's residence, trespassers will be arrested. Since then, no one's ever tried to inspect it again.